Unraveling mysteries. New DNA testing brings us closer to truth in a decades-old case.
Have the original DNA retested using more modern technology. The big breakthrough on many cold cases across the country has been IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, and that's how the Golden State case was solved and other
Right.
major cases where you don't have to necessarily have the suspect and his DNA, but if you can get into their family tree, then you can trace them back from a second or a third cousin to identify the.
Right, and we know BK was caught like that, right? What's up, Teresa? Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, a million reasons, right? So I got distracted by you guys rolling in. Thought Criminal, Teresa, Pink Stars. Yeah, the ransom note was 3 pages. That's what I was showing earlier, except they put all 3 pages on one. All right. All right, let's keep going. I totally got distracted by the people coming in. I'll remember in a second what I was going to say.
Killer. The other important thing that's happening with the retesting is the DNA sample sizes are so much smaller now because the technology is so much better. So where there was a concern in years past that testing the DNA, the whole sample, might be consumptive. It might use the entire sample. And today, because such smaller sampling sizes are required, that concern is no longer as valid.
And also, because this is Investigation Nation, I wanted to share with our audience, John, that I went to the former Ramsey home in Boulder, Colorado earlier this year to look at the intruder theory, because, again, for so long, people said somebody in the family did it. And then there's a lot of people who still believe to this day, yourself included, about the intruder theory. So I wanted to see how easily the back of the home can be accessed, because, and it
yes, let's look at that. This is what we're talking about right now is theories. I love the crime crew. You guys come in and you ask just the right questions. Under the Scar says, I'm not in agreement the family had anything to do with it. The note is the only oddity. John wouldn't push this much time if the family knew. In your opinion, rightfully so. But they just talked about the theory. One of the first theories was the intruder theory. All right. So the major theories in this case are the intruder theory, which they need to, hopefully they're looking into. All right. But no sign of forced entry. The note was it was 3 pages long for it to be an intruder. And the house was large and quiet, difficult for an intruder to navigate. Second big theory was the family involvement, that a family member accidentally or intentionally harmed JonBenét, and then they staged it as a kidnapping to cover it up. Remember, they didn't initially find her. All right. The ransom note was written on Patsy Ramsey's notepad with a pen from the home. And again, it was long, as well as the $118,000 ransom demand. That was exactly what John's bonus was going to be. They never found footprints in the snow on the outside. So the variations of the family theory are that Patsy accidentally killed her during a discipline or rage incident. Secondly, John, less commonly proposed, used and tied to staging, are usually tied to staging arguments. And Burke accidentally blow by her brother with parents covering it up because they didn't want to lose their child. Third major one is the hybrid third party connection, where it was somebody that knows it was an intruder, but they also knew the family and they knew how to get into the home. They were in the social circle of his business life. And the reason they say that is because of the unusual staging of the crime scene, the mix of the forensic indicators, DNA versus the handwriting versus the household materials that were used. All right. And then the other theory was that somebody on the outside that was close saw her, and it was some type of sexual predator in the neighborhood, maybe a former housekeeper or contractor, a drifter or transient. And then we've got a false confession by John Mark Carr. All right. So those are the major points and theories that have been out there.
It does look a little bit different today than it did in 1996. So I drove around the front, I went around the alley in the back, and I wanted to watch this together with you. Let's watch. This is the alleyway right off of 15th. We're on the back side of the former home of the Ramseys. And as we take a look here at the back of the house, you can see the complexities of all the different levels and all of the different entryways that are on this house. And investigators have long...
You guys know how visual we are over here, so it's great to see what, when, where, kind of how, right? It's been a long time.
Believed that this is a very key point in this case. We've got the back fence over there. We've got the garage here. We've got this side entrance here with the wrought iron. And we know that this is an area that has been very closely looked at through the years. Okay, so what can you tell us about the alley, the way it looked in 1996 and still today? I mean, it's pretty big access back there.
Yes, and in 96, it was even more so accessible. After the murder, the Ramsey family never, ever stepped foot back inside that home. And the home was later sold. And then owners who came along later added the privacy fence, which runs off the alley in the back along the sides. And then in front, they put up a privacy fence that is a tall wrought iron railing. And so security was not as big of an issue in 96 with the Ramsey family as it is shortly after the murder and as it appears today. But even today, Laura, you saw yourself that off of that back alley behind the home, which is where the residents would drive into the garage and access the home. And that was the garage that was used by the Ramsey family on the night of Christmas 1996. Shortly before the murder. So that area was very accessible in the back. I think we're closer now.
Yeah, there's a lot. And he's saying he thinks they're closer now. Remember, he knows what's been tested. He knows the people that have been cleared. There's a big spreadsheet right now with the names being crossed off and the DNA being tested so that they can get rid of the people that are not involved. Sadie's mama says, I agree here. Sadie's mama says they went straight to the police, even after note said if they do, they would unalive their daughter. They knew she was already unalive, so no threat. Interesting. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. And I pray that we get answers too. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be covering this case. If I thought, this is just nonsense. It's not, guys. You just heard him. We're getting closer than ever before. You think the brother wrote the letter? No. I don't think the brother wrote the letter. No way, no how. I think the mom wrote the letter. All right, Wild Wanderers has never thought Burke did anything. And it could have absolutely not been Burke. But somebody knew how to get in here, knew where to go, knew about a present, knew where the ransom, or knew where the paper, knew where the pen was. How? How'd they know that? Had to have been someone close
to having this case solved than we ever have been in the past. And I know this testing with Othram and other labs is not inexpensive, but what the Smith family team has done is we've started a GoFundMe account. Our target was $100,000. We're over $95,000 that we've raised. Now we spent about $75,000, but we have offered to use our GoFundMe account to pay for this genetic testing. So
that's crazy. They better start getting some results because that's a lot. Patsy dictated the letter and Burke wrote it, in my opinion, Deb says, Deborah. Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to try to find that letter if I can. I have it somewhere, but I don't want to play this too long and not interject, right? Fair use.
If the police department's a smaller department, if they don't have the budget to support that, we'd use our entire GoFundMe account just to identify this killer. If we have to raise more money, we'll go do that. And I know the Ramsey family is very committed to raising funding if that's what's required to get this case solved.
I don't know what happened. What happened? The volume stopped. Hold on, guys. These people have plenty of money. Like, what? Well, there's not even those people anymore. Hold on. I don't know what happened. It just stopped playing. What happened here? Did I mute it? Sorry, guys. Can you guys hear me? Hold on. Let me go back.
Because the technology is so
They must have.
shortly before.
Waiting for answers and still believing a breakthrough will.
I wonder
If we have to.
Hold on. Okay, there it is.
And we spent about $75,000, but we have offered to use our GoFundMe account to pay for this genetic testing. So if the police department's a smaller department, if they don't have the budget to support that, we'd use our entire GoFundMe account just to identify this killer. If we have to raise more money, we'll go do that. And I know the Ramsey family is very committed to raising funding if that's what's required to get this case solved.
Appreciate you. All right, it's their video that went out for a minute. I don't know I don't know what happened. They messed
waiting
up.
for answers and still believing a breakthrough will come. And John joins me now live. John, I can't even count how many times you and I meet at this time of year to discuss what's new.
Hey, he might be at CrimeCon next year too, everybody. All right. And yeah, they have plenty of money to pay for it. Well, we don't know what their situation is at this point, right? But yeah, I mean, the thought is they had plenty of money.
What's happening, what's different, what's changed, but something does feel different this year. To hear Chief Redfern say that they've got new evidence, that they've retested old evidence, and that they're using outside experts. Let's start with the new evidence and the retesting of old evidence. Have they told you anything about that?
Well, Chief Redfern told us, gosh, I don't know, September, we had a meeting with him, and that he had submitted evidence for additional DNA testing. He didn't say what evidence it was, but that it was submitted again, or perhaps new. We don't know if it was new or stuff that had been.
Now, remember, there's a lot of evidence that has, at this point, it's been almost 30 years, and there wasn't a lot of DNA evidence to begin with. So they have to be really careful in testing this evidence, because that might be it. That might be the last time they're going to be able to use this small piece of evidence and get actual results, because it's been so long. Again, they didn't use that back then, and they didn't think to collect that. And I saw somebody in chat earlier saying, if this crime occurred now in 2025, 2026, we would probably know what happened, because we'd have Ring doorbells and cameras, right? Not in this case, we don't, but we have DNA.
Tested before.